friends of Tales of the Night. Once again, we have a small compilation of stories that happen to babysitters, an occupation that by its very nature lends itself to paranormal phenomena or inexplicable experiences being the order of the day. Get yourself a coffee, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and enjoy the following stories. You're listening to Tales of the Night. I want to share with you a very short but terrifying experience. It happened to me just a few months ago, with a child I still go to babysit at least 2 or 3 times a month. He's an extremely obedient child. Of all the ones I care for or have cared for, he's undoubtedly the kindest and the one I enjoy my time with the most. I could even say we have fun together. He's 5 years old but very intelligent. What happened on this occasion started out strange from the first call. The child's mother asked me to come right away because something had happened. I couldn't say no. She would pay me double. But they needed me to go to their house at that moment. I left the friends I was with and took a taxi to get there as soon as possible. Upon arrival, a lady who apparently was taking care of the child until I got there left the house without saying anything to me or saying goodbye to him. I assumed she was a neighbor. The child was very serious, quieter than usual, and I couldn't make him smile. He asked permission to play with his tablet in the bedroom. I said yes and started preparing something for him to have dinner. Among the kitchen noises, I managed to hear a ringtone like that of a cell phone. I lowered the heat to hear better. I left the kitchen and heard the child's voice chatting with someone. From there, I asked him who he was talking to, and there was only silence. "Are you okay?" I asked again. "Who are you talking to?" "No one," his voice said from his room. I went back to the kitchen, and just when I was about to continue with dinner, the same tone was heard again. This time I didn't lower the heat. Slowly, without making noise or saying anything, I left the kitchen and approached his room on tiptoe. I heard him talking to his grandmother. He was asking her things, a normal conversation, but I knew he was forbidden to talk on the phone, so that's why he was hiding. I found it very endearing, and without saying anything to him, I went back to finish dinner. By the time it was ready and I went to call him, I heard him saying goodbye to her because he was being called for dinner. While we were eating, I wanted to make conversation, but he was still very serious. "I know you were talking on the phone with your grandmother, but don't worry. I won't tell anyone you talked without permission." He barely paid attention to me. He was serious for the rest of the night and went to bed early without begging me to play with him for a while longer, as he did every night. Very late at night, his parents arrived, and his mother drove me home. We came back early to take you and take the opportunity to rest for a while and take a shower. In the morning, we have to return to the funeral home. When she said that, a chill ran through my body. Well, I could only think of one thing. Please don't let it be that grandma died. Please don't let it be that grandma died. The lady continued and said, "My mother-in-law suffered a heart attack in the morning. I haven't wanted to tell the child because he's going to be very upset. She was his only grandmother, and he was her only grandson. They were everything to each other." Then she asked me why I was pale, but I couldn't tell her what had happened. I still don't understand what happened. The child didn't know that his grandmother had died. but I had promised not to say anything about that call, and I kept my promise. But now, every time we're alone, and that cell phone ringtone is heard, the chills return to me. In my family, it's very common for one of the teenage cousins to be responsible for taking care of the little ones when there's a party. All gatherings are usually at Aunt Alejandra's house because she has a covered hall very suitable for that. And without fail, around 8 at night, the dance starts, even if it started as a piñata party, and all the children walk to the grandparents' house 2 blocks away. That house still looks like a little ranch and has a huge patio, so big that it extends to both sides of the street. One of them is the side where they leave all the cars when there are parties or a lot of people arrive. My parents were at odds with other family members for a long time, so I missed out on most of these parties when I was a child. When they finally started talking to the rest of the family again, we went to grandmother's birthday. It was just getting dark. They told me that it would be my turn to take care of my cousins when we went to the grandparents' house. I was barely 14 years old, but the other cousins were already old enough to drink and wanted to stay at the party. Since I didn't know any of my cousins well, I didn't care much either, and accepted, without any complaint, to go with the children. For some reason, people have started to leave that neighborhood, at least that area. The streets seem deserted as soon as night falls. As we walked there, we only heard crickets, and the sound of the party was left further and further behind, until it became just a murmur. I then entered with 2 cousins and 3 little girl cousins into the house. The youngest was about 4 years old. As they entered, they ran towards the television to turn on a video game, but just as they were turning it on, lightning struck outside, and a second later, we were completely in the dark. "The power's gone out," said the youngest girl, scared, while I ran to look for a candle in the kitchen. All I found was a votive candle, and with that I gathered them all in the living room. I'm running to the party to let them know the power's out here. Wait a moment, children. When I told them I was leaving, they started desperately asking me not to go. "The man from the patio will come in," they shouted. I got a bit flustered. "What man?" "What are you talking about?" I asked them. "The man who lives in the vine." The house was surrounded by a 3-meter-high fence, very tall, and in one of the corners near the small wooden door, it was completely covered by a vine. It hadn't particularly caught my attention, but when they started shouting that there was someone there, I turned towards it, and it seemed to be an especially dark corner, as if it were at a perfect angle not to be reached by the distant streetlights. The car entrance door was locked, so if I went out, it had to be precisely through the door under that vine. "What? What do you mean someone lives there? Surely it's just a scary story to frighten you, nothing more." "Don't worry," I told them. "No, he lives there. Everyone has seen him, even the grandparents." After hearing that, I just told them that we would all go back to the party together, but that we would have to go through that door. They looked at each other surprised, doubting, but they all agreed to go. There was something I can't describe. An eerie atmosphere in the house was also pushing me more and more to run away. What a day I got to start taking care of them, I thought. When we took a step outside, I noticed that someone grabbed my finger. I turned to look at them and realized they were all holding hands. We started walking across the huge patio, only illuminated by the light of the votive candle. The closer we got, the darker the vine seemed, and the more convinced I became that someone was watching us from there, from the top part in the darkness. I started to hurry, and suddenly, without realizing it, we were running. When I opened the door and looked at the street, for a moment I realized how absurd it was to be running for that reason, to be afraid of a children's story and the power going out. But then I heard the girl's screams behind me. "There he is! There he is!" they shouted desperately. When I looked back, they were all running terrified, passing by my side and heading towards Aunt Ali's house. And then, among the branches, I saw with total clarity a pale face, looking at me with eyes so wide open that they seemed about to pop out. I ran after the children, and upon arrival, I wanted to explain to everyone that there was someone in the vine, that I had seen him too. But they gave me something hot to eat and told me to calm down. A while later, I saw the children interacting with everyone at the party as if nothing had happened. Much later, my mom told me that this was a family story, that my dad had told her that he had also seen, as a child, that man of the vine, and that even grandmother used to leave sweets for this creature as part of a strange pact. My mom attributed it to weird ideas from ranch people or older people. I could never convince her of what I had seen, even though I had no knowledge of that family legend. They never convinced me again to take care of my cousins in that house. I worked as a babysitter for 2 years whenever I could. It helped me save for the first year of university, without having to worry so much about finding a part-time job. Several strange things happened to me, but there's undoubtedly one that really changed me, and to this day, its memory still terrifies me. It was my first time at the house of a young couple who called me when Susanna, one of my school friends, couldn't go to take care of their children. So they passed on my number, and I gladly accepted. I had to take care of a baby about 9 months old and a 4-year-old girl. I got a bad feeling when, checking my Facebook, I saw a photo of my friend. The one who usually went to that house, saying she was bored doing nothing. I didn't understand why she wouldn't have wanted to go to work. I feared there might be something weird or that the children were unbearable, because otherwise, there was no reason. When the 4-year-old girl came to greet me, I had a bad feeling. She was a very ugly girl, but not physically. I wouldn't know how to explain it. I just got a very strange feeling when she came to greet me. The parents had told me that after 8 o'clock, I should stay in the baby's room at all times, and the girl knew it. "Do you know why?" she asked me. "Because the lady comes to suck his soul out." I told her not to do that it wasn't right, that there was no lady. "Yes, she comes in through the window and goes for the baby. My mom has already seen her." I tried to ignore that strange girl, especially because of the face she made while telling it, as if she enjoyed it. I tried to play with her and change the conversation until 8 o'clock. I entered the baby's room and asked her to stay in her room. Several minutes passed, and everything remained calm until I heard something outside the window. The baby immediately started crying. It was very clear that there was someone outside, and I was convinced that the girl had somehow gotten out to play a prank on me. With the baby in my arms, I opened the room door, and the girl was there, behind the door. "Don't go out," she told me. "It's better to stay in here. I'll stay with you if you're scared." Without understanding why I listened to her, I went in with her, and we could clearly hear someone walking outside, as if going around in circles, as if looking for a way to get in. The girl then, ignoring it, told me to play with dolls with her. And she proceeded to act as if 2 little dolls she had were starting a conversation. While the noises outside became more and more intense, she also raised the voice of her game. After 3 or 4 minutes, that seemed very long to me, the sound ceased. And then, at that moment, I could swear I heard a breath that filled the entire house. A while later, the girl fell asleep, and when it was already past 10, I decided to leave her in her room before her parents arrived. It would only be a moment, I thought. Nothing would happen if I left the baby for a few seconds. So I picked up the girl and took her to her room. As I walked there, I couldn't help but feel a gaze fixed on my back. I left her and ran back to the baby's room. And then I clearly saw a silhouette standing through the curtain on the outside of the window. Before I could react or get scared or even scream, the sound of the parents arriving relieved me. I waited in the baby's room next to his crib until they came in with me. I didn't return to that house either,